How often do you see a teenager with their head buried in their phone, totally oblivious to what's going on around them? Far too often. After the Bell Rings is a situational awareness and safety guide for adolescents. Firearms trainer, Second Amendment advocate, and author of the book, Bill Dalpe, is up next.
But if you own a gun in California, you should have an attorney that specializes in California gun laws on your speed dial. Because if you ever have legal matters that involve firearms, you need California's firearm lawyer, John Dillon. Especially if you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Our trusted firearms attorney is John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Put his number on your phone right now. That's 760-642-7150. That's John Dillon's California Firearm Lawyers, 760-642-7150.
So next we're going to talk about After the Bell Rings, Situational Awareness for Teens. Bill Dalpe wrote a book about it, and we wanted to talk to him a little bit more about it. Bill, you there?
I am. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic here. Boy, you guys were talking about barbecue and avocados and guns, and boy, you have me.
That's the only downside to this show. We all leave here starving.
We do always end up talking about
talk
food.
a lot about food.
Wrap a little bacon in there and you got it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where are you from, Bill? Where you're not from San Diego?
No, the commute would have been a little long for me. I'm in Massachusetts. So
Massachusetts.
otherwise I'd be there.
Yeah. Right. Okay, awesome. So tell us about the book. What got you excited to write this book?
It's kind of a little bit of a backstory. I'll make it very short. We live in a little bedroom rural community, 13,000 people, and there was a 15-year-old boy who was, we'll just call it abducted. He was lured into the proverbial van and come to find out it had to do with drugs. But that didn't sit right with me. It really bothered me how, a 15-year-old boy at that point, they should be aware enough, to avoid those situations. So I had approached the school committee, actually the superintendent and assistant superintendent. And at the time I was teaching the Refuse to Be a Victim, that NRA program.
Yeah, sure. Very familiar.
Yes. So I figured, let me approach them with this program, at the time. So I brought the student packet. I brought the promotional pamphlet that goes with it. And the superintendent was actually getting really excited about it. He's like, wow, we can include this in our criminal justice program. And I'm getting really excited. I'm already parsing out, what we can teach these students and not. And then the assistant superintendent flipped over the promotional card and tell me what three letters that she sees.
Yeah, NRA.
NRA. And she immediately said, ooh, I don't think the parents will like this. And I quickly reminded her that it has nothing to do with guns and it's about awareness concepts. And they refused the whole thing. And
they refused to be a victim.
You got it. You got free education, free materials, just flat out refused it. So that fueled the writing of this book. I didn't stop till it was completed. To give just what the tagline says, to give kids the tools they need to stay safe. So that's how it started.
That's interesting. What happened was the 15-year-old okay?
Yep. That turned out okay. Yep.
Good. Was that somebody you knew or just something that was in the papers?
No, just something, hits close to home. It was right in our neighborhood. So,
That's terrifying.
Yeah. And it looks like a quick read. It's not super big. I love the fact that the letters are not, I'm not saying I can't read, but, it looks like a quick read. And I think you did a good job in presentation because, I think if it would have been any thicker or any bigger, maybe someone wouldn't pick it up, but anybody could pick that up and knock that out in a day or two.
Yeah, and it's meant for kids. It's written for an 8th grade level.
I knew that's why I liked it. I knew it.
So so you were already certified to teach Refuse to Be a Victim. Talk a little bit about your background. What kind of Second Amendment stuff or what kind of gun instruction were you involved with, or how did you get interested in this?
In the book, this whole ground, I own Patriot Farm School and Defense here in Rehoboth, Mass, and we teach everything. It's not just licensing classes; it's awareness for adults too. I have a custom class called Before You Carry and Defend, which everything you need to know before you decide to have a gun staged in your home or carrying one out and about, right? Because we know that's a problem. People get a license, they strap on a gun, they think they're good, right? So that's a big problem. So, and everything in between, defensive pistol, shotgun rifle, you name it, we do it all. But this, the After the Bell Rings just really has a place. And here's the thing, it was always meant for parents to read it and then say, hey, Johnny, why don't you read, the first chapter, and now let's see how these things pertain to our own routine, our own life, right? So just having a kid read a book the first time or attend one of our seminars just once is not going to do the job, right? They need constant reinforcement on these methodologies and techniques and just the wherewithal to be aware. And there's two levels to this book. And we subsequently released an instructor program, which comes with a very robust PowerPoint and actually has some topics that are in the second book that's I'm halfway through. But it's meant for parents, guardians to reinforce in their everyday lives. And the two levels, like stranger danger, like you mentioned, the phone, that should be real obvious stuff and reinforced every day. But there comes a time when your child is going off to scouts, you name it, dance or whatever, where they're alone, right? So where they're around other adults, other parents, other kids, but the direct guardians aren't there. So to me, it's extremely important that the kids have some ownership in their own personal safety, not to be alone with an adult, and that could even mean family members, right? Uncle Johnny, who, when the kid was small, didn't know that maybe, he did something bad and did some jail time. And now, you have to have a conversation with the child to say, hey, look, if Uncle Johnny wants to get you alone, don't do that,
I was a kid in the '80s, and that's when all this started kind of kicking off was the stranger danger and don't get into a car with strangers and that sort of thing. I mean, we spent the entire '80s terrifying kids, making them terrified to go outside, talk to strangers, be alone, anything. It never stopped me. I was always out, screwing around and doing whatever and doing things I probably shouldn't have. But what do you think is the state of affairs of things? Are abductions worse than they were? Are they better? Is it not as common? Did we blow it up too much in the 80s? Or, what's the current state of affairs?
Well, I just think with social media, advent of social media, and how communications just, wildfires through the interwebs. And I think there's just more awareness of it. I think it was always there. There's some adults that I've talked to that, whatever leadership position took advantage of them, whether they sexually molested them or so I think it's always been there. As far as the increase in it, I really can't speak to that. I really don't have, it's not my realm of expertise, the psychology and the sociology part of that.
Just seems like the tools and the access portals are different.
I think that's probably, that just occurred to me too, rather than, Boy Scout leaders and priests and guys in white vans. Now it's just, somebody online.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah,
how many groups did I just anger right there, right?
Send
all your emails to
Michael, 1-800
like
Michael.
It didn't happen. I mean, come on. Anyway.
But we'd rather have you take the heat.
Yeah, well, fine.
Those types of people are in every realm, right? Not just, priests and scouts, but it could be coaches, other parents.
It could be anybody. It could be your relative.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
So how long has the book been out? How long have you been doing this?
I think about 6 years now. It's been out. It's something, I have a very bad habit of developing something and just moving on to the next thing and not promoting it. And, so that's kind of, that's kind of where this, fell.
Well, do you have like a kind of a cool, do you have a story? Do you have a cool success story? Is anything, has anyone circled back and said, oh man, I can't believe this, anything like that?
Not so much that yet, but I do have parents that come up to me and say, "Wow, I actually learned something from reading this book." You know, and I'm like, "Well, that's good. It's a little troublesome, but that's good."
Yeah.
If somebody gets the book and the parent reads it and the kid reads it, and like you said, they go back and reinforce some things. I know that your life isn't going to change if you just read the book once. You know, like you said, you have to kind of implement some of these things. But if they do all those things, if they do talk about it and they do reinforce some things from the book, what's an example of how a kid's daily life will change, or what's an activity that'll change, or what's a behavior that they're going to do differently if they read this book and follow some of the tips?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, low-hanging fruit, would be not having your face buried in your phone. That seems to be the biggest attention grabber out there. I've witnessed people crossing parking lots, kids crossing parking lots with their head in their phone and not looking up. So that's an obvious, easy one. Don't be alone with an adult. That's some of the other topics. I have short stories in this. And before I go there, I developed a little mechanism or a little methodology called the trust ring. Mm-hmm. And it frames, and I think in a logical way, how kids should place trust in others, right? And it's based on its color codes, kind of like Cooper's color codes of awareness. I think kids relate to colors, and so that to me goes a long way in reinforcing their everyday interactions with people. So if a coach asks the child for the phone number, say, well, why don't you have my parents' phone number, right? Because in my opinion, there's no coach, adult leader, priest, whatever, that should have a minor's phone number. That to me, that's a big red flag.
Isn't that surprising? Whenever you read these stories about whatever, a teacher, a coach, something like that, and they talk about how they were sending texts back and forth, I can't even fathom that.
No.
With having that kind of relationship with any kind of authority figure back when I was a kid. But anyway.
Yep.
Orange County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserving and restoring Orange County and self-defense rights. If you live in Orange County and want to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, you need to join ocgunowners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is the Do Something organization to restore and defend the Second Amendment. Volunteer at a shooting social, at a gun shop and tabletop, and help more pro-gun local officials get elected. Save the date. Orange County Gun Prom is May 20th, and become a member today. OrangeCountyGunOwners.com. That's ocgunowners.com/join.
We're talking to Bill Dalpe, who's the author of After the Bell Rings, Situational Awareness for Teens. Bill, it was interesting. You said that one of the reasons you put this curriculum out is you tried to promote some NRA curriculum, and they were nervous about the NRA.
It had nothing to do with firearms.
Had nothing to do with firearms. They just didn't like the fact that the NRA had their name on it. And I found that is, NRA used to be a positive. They were the experts. If they said it, then it was important and true and trusted and tried. And now it's like you almost have to apologize. Like the name has really become not so much an asset, but almost a detriment. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on it? I think what you've done is the way to get around it, or the way to combat that is, all right, well, then let's just put out our own curriculum, put some other, branding on it, which is, I think what you've done here is probably better than what you were proposing to them. But what are your thoughts on that, was as far as the NRA's name, being a little tarnished?
That's a complicated question, and that can go in a few different directions, but we'll keep it to the education and training. I think that this program, and I'm sure there's others out there, cater more to the demographic of kids where, the refuse to be a victim's just, kind of like for young adults. But yeah, the NRA, we know how the world's going, right? Everyone's in their camp, and, you mentioned NRA, it just has a stigmatism now, and or stigmata, and it's I don't know, it's not right, and we know what it's all about, but it's there, right? So in that vein, that same thought, I own a school, Patriot Farm School and Defense, and I give free seminars centered around my book. And I would talk to a group, whether it be a church group, scout group, and I would give them my card to say, yeah, reach out and let's schedule a time. And they seen Patriot Firearm School and Defense and like, oh, wait. What are we teaching the kids? I'm like, oh, we're teaching them the content from After the Bell Rings. And I had a couple youth groups refuse because I own a firearm school. And that's ludicrous, right? So that goes in that same vein, right? People hear firearm and they just immediately shut down, and it's too bad. And so what I did was I separated After the Bell Rings from my school totally. It has its own web address. I have separate cards for it. It's just totally separate because of that reason. Yeah.
I don't even, and I don't know, and that's the right thing to do. I don't know if we should even fight that. I think that's the right thing to do. Okay, well, then here, let's do it this way. As long as, it's kind of that old, I think it's usually credited to Ronald Reagan, something along the lines of, it's amazing what can get accomplished if we don't care who gets the credit or whatever. And that's kind of what you're doing. It's all right, fine. Here, let's brand it this way. As long as the information gets out there, as long as the right people learn the right things, fine, whatever. We can brand it any way you want. I don't think I don't think fighting it. I don't think that pushing back against their pushback is fruitful. So I think what you've done is wonderful.
Well, it's like selling a car. If you don't address all their negativities to buy the car, they won't buy the car. But if you turn around and either change the color, put a different set of wheels on, whatever the case may be, okay, are you happy? Is this the car you want? Yeah, that's right. I like it. And I think that's what you've done. Probably didn't do it in that manner, but you figured they weren't going to bite, so you better do whatever it takes, because the message is what's important. It's not the delivery, it's the message.
It's the content, right? And this book is just where it starts, right? This book is meant as a catalyst to really ingrain these things in kids, these concepts in kids. And it bothers me when people, I'll tell you, I approach my same school system, new superintendent, new assistant superintendent, over the summer. And this fall, they refused it. They want nothing to do with it. And it leaves me scratching my head. So I have instructors now I have an instructor program centered around the book. And there's a very robust PowerPoint, and it comes with certificates and other things. And that's how, we're kind of getting the message out by other people delivering this. And I'll mention it here. I haven't said it to too many people, but it's my plan to make this a .org so that everything's free, the books, the content, that's where I want to go with it.
That's a great idea. Where do people... How do people typically hear the book, and how do they purchase it these days? They
can do it through my firearm school, but again, it's a separate web address. It's atbrbook.com.
atbrbook. atbrbook.com. They can purchase it there.
After the bell.
Right.
Yep. Right. After the bell rings. Yeah, it's short for that. Yep. Yeah, and I suggest anyone who wants to teach this, just get a book first and read it. When you get the buy-in, then we can talk about becoming an instructor. And there's no instructor program per se. If you're currently a USCCA instructor, if you are currently front-facing kids, whether you're a teacher, a scout leader, religious education teacher, 4-H, you name it, as long as you're delivering content to kids in some other way. You can teach this because we made the notes of the PowerPoint so thorough that, we don't suggest reading them, but you could just read it and deliver the message to the kids. It's all in the ability of the instructor, how you can come across the kids. But we know how kids listen, right? So it can be a challenge sometimes. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's very, very cool. By my asking, do you have kids?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Nice.
I have a son. Well, my oldest daughter, she's in town here. She's going to post-grad soon. She's 23. My son is in parts unknown. He's actually stationed not too far from you. And my son Alex, he's 17. My son Alex has Dravet syndrome. It's a form of epilepsy, and he's home. He's 17. Yep. Yep.
I mean, I'm going to state the obvious. It's tough raising kids, especially these days.
Sure.
And,
absolutely.
And, any assistance, any help. It's almost surprising to hear that, kids do have to be aware. It seems like all they do is sit there and look at their phones on the couch in the living room. I mean, do they leave the house anymore? Do they need to be aware? Or, I mean,
It's not just kids.
It's everybody.
It's not just kids. I would hope that through your book that parents may come across, or it may be introduced in some way or fashion to kids, and that the parents, by way of the student picking it up, that the parents will also get involved and learn, because there's so many adults that don't understand this, that have no situational awareness. It's not just
I agree.
Kids.
I agree. And look, that's when anything gets learned at home. Something like this reinforced. Yeah, and I'll tell you, Gavin DeBecca, right? His books, The Gift of Fear, which that's number one book I recommend in my Before You Carry and Defend class. But another book he wrote is Protecting the Gift of Fear. And that book is all geared towards parents to say, hey, look, get your kids out of a bubble, right? And make them a little responsible for their own personal safety. Like, for instance, one thing I love in his book, he says, don't teach your kids not to talk to strangers. That's about the worst thing you can do. Have your kids learn your phone number, your address, and have them find, not so much a police officer or not a male, but a woman who has kids, right? So if you're lost and you approach a woman who has kids, she's probably not going to arrest until she finds a parent. So I think that's
I just saw a video where a kid was being followed, and so he ducked into a store and spoke with a woman who was running the store, and boom, man, she sprung into action.
That's
great. Yeah, that's a success. Yeah.
It's almost like the whole mentality, like Mike had mentioned, the whole stranger danger. It's almost like it's taught us to fear, and through fear, we've lost a backbone. It's people that don't have. Instead of being aware, they stay internal more. It's like they fear everything, so therefore they close up.
Yeah, and look, a lot of parents don't want to convey and talk about the world like this, right? They don't want to scare their kids, but they're doing them a great disservice by not bringing this stuff up, And I have to say again for the third time, like, even the uncle, the aunt, the cousin who you shouldn't be alone with, because a lot of these assaults, especially to young women, happen to people that from people that they know.
Yeah, the majority.
And it's so uncomfortable. That's such an uncomfortable because now what you're doing is you're kind of taking the naiveness away from the kid, right? And you're educating them to real world stuff. But it has to happen. There has to be a point where you give the kids the tools to stay safe. I mean, that's why that tagline is there.
So I would bet that we have a lot of grandparents listening to us. If you're a grandparent and you're listening to us, this would be a really great gift to get your kids and their kids. Like, this would be a fantastic. And now's the time to do it. Like, right now, don't give it to them for Christmas, They want, it'll get lost in the clutter. Right now is the time.
Or birthday.
Or a birthday, it'll get lost in the clutter. Do it off season. Do it off season.
Yeah.
Now's the time to do it right now. Get your kids and their kids this book. I think that would be a fantastic thing to do for them.
And with kids today, read it. I'll give you $10. I'll give you a test. And if you pass the test, you can get the $10.
There you go.
Well, what's fun too is playing the situational awareness game, right?
There
So
you
there's
go.
stories in back of the book. Now you can, when you're out and about at a movie theater or a mall, or say, hey, who are they being aware, and have the kids say, oh no, because of this, and great, So it gives them a way to observe, which is a great thing to do in public, right? We want to be observing, and it kind of reinforces the concepts.
Alicia, would you describe yourself as situationally aware most of the time?
I would say so.
Yeah, me too. I'm like borderline paranoid, man. I swear. Well, cool, man. Thank you so much. What a great interview. What a great book. Give us the website one more time.
It's atbrbook.com. And thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, you already got one request. I had to take a picture of the book and sent the cover and the inside cover to her. So
Thank you, Bill. I'll be reaching
Thank
out
you,
to you
guys.
for that instructor.
job
information.
well done.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.